Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again. My name is Sept, a student from the Faculty of Arts and Social Science. Thank you for being a part of You Alive today. Our program today will be split into 3 sections. The first section will be a talk by our speaker, Dr. Kumaran Rasappan, followed by an interview with Mr. Viswa Sadasivan, our chairman of the You Alive Organizing Committee. Next, we will have a 40-minute Q&A session. And if you would like to ask a question, do kindly proceed to the microphones located along the site. Introduce yourself and speak into them directly. This is important so that the online community is able to hear your question clearly. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Please sit back and enjoy.
Alive.
95% of the population in the Himalayas region, in the Everest region, are actually Sherpa people. The Sherpa people, they are of Tibetan origin. They are the specialists in climbing in the Himalayan region in Nepal. So a lot of foreigners, they rely heavily on their assistance to actually climb mountains. However, there's not much recognition given to the Sherpas. These guys are short-built people. They are lean-built, about 1.6 meters. They weigh about 60 kilos maximum. But the amount of load they carry as an everyday job, it's amazing. Some of them carry even double their weight. I'm not joking, 120 kilos on their head, and they carry this for 10 days to base camp. So I was thinking, why not, using my profession as a doctor, my skills as a doctor, why not help them out? We brought equipment, medications, and things that they needed to this clinic. We refurbished it and to make it a more of a clinic. We also gave the villagers health education, so they know how to take care of themselves. I actually received a lot of recognition for climbing Everest, and a lot of doctors and the general public were aware of my project in Nepal. And now I've received a lot of response from them saying that, oh, I want to help out. The potential is there to make it a really sustainable effort. You see this guy climbing with you in another team, he interacts with you, and the next day you realize, you hear the news that he fell into a crevasse and he died. And this is a guy you were just talking to the day before. And this happens regularly on an expedition, you see. And it's a friend of yours, and you know that this guy was helping you. It's a job for him to help you to reach the top, and he sacrificed his life for that. He gets to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Kumaran Rasappan.
Hello. Hi, good evening. Thanks for having me here. Quite nice to see a large number of people here. So I'm given only 10 minutes to summarize my 4 years of planning and 1 year of no pay leave and all these experiences that I've got. So I'll try to run through quickly, and later we have a chance to ask questions. Okay, so these are all my sponsors. This was the photo that inspired me to climb. You'll be surprised to know that it was all in NUS. This was a Romanian PhD exchange student of mine who was in the rock climbing team as me. I was in the IVP climbing team. And she took a break and she went to Mount Aconcagua, which was in the highest mountain in South America. And she climbed it. And when she came back, she posted this photo up. So I was in my King Edward VII hall. I was looking through the photos. And when I saw this, when I was a year 3 medical student, my eyes grew wide. And I was like, wow, if someone ordinary, just like me, climbing beside me day in, day out, training for a rock climbing competition, can do something so extraordinary like this, I wanted to try it out for myself. I wanted to experience those beautiful sights with my own eyes. And that's when I started planning for big things. So basically, there's this model of ISO, interest, skills, and opportunity that I've heard from another speaker. So many times in life, one of this is not presented to us. For me, I had only the interest of climbing. I wanted to start climbing and see how is it like. So I had to create the opportunity and I had to learn the skills myself, which was kind of difficult. A lot of things in life, you have actually one missing, and then people strive to actually create the opportunity or create the skills. But I had two things missing. I only had the interest, but I was glad to say the interest spurred me on for many years to come after that. And there was this quote, "The only real way to predict your future is to create it yourself." And I think it's very true. And so my journey started. I really wanted to create my own future of climbing mountains for myself. As a guy with no experience of high altitude, living in sea level Singapore, wanting to aspire to do something like this, a lot of people thought I was crazy. But slowly, step by step, I made progress and eventually climbed some mountains. So this was a photo of a waterfall in China, in Sichuan, near Chengdu. It's frozen in winter and free-flowing in summer, so it freezes randomly. And then this was one of the ice climbing courses that I went to learn the skills needed to climb mountains in the future. I was from NUS, so I was always proud to be from NUS and from medicine, so I brought our NUS flag along wherever I went. And that's not me. That's one of my guides. So he saw me taking photos with all these flags, and he said, why not I have a chance? So I took a photo of my guide with this NUS flag. And this was a NUS flag, again, in another peak called Mount Chola near Tibet. But only when I came back, I realized that due to the hypoxic environment, this flag was actually upside down. It's supposed to be read Team NUS, but it's some UN2F something. And a lot of foreigners, when they climb mountains and they climb a couple mountains and when they write books about it, they only mention about their achievements, their teammates' achievements. But these guys are the real heroes of the mountain. They are the Sherpa people. And 95% of foreign climbers wouldn't be able to reach the summit of any mountain without the help of these Sherpas. They are of Tibetan origin. They came down to lower lands in in Nepal, and they are experts in climbing because they adapted to high altitude. They have bigger lungs, and their oxygen dissociation is actually more than normal sea level people. So this guy is actually breaking trail in waist-deep snow at 6,000 meters. Just for an idea, at 6,000 meters, just walking from this end of the stage to that end, you'll feel as though you just ran about like 400 meters as fast as you can, and you'll take about 30 seconds of panting, just pure panting, and then you'll take another 2-3 steps, and then you'll pant for another 20 seconds. This guy is breaking trail for us because he wanted our team to reach the summit in waist-deep snow somehow. So the motivation and the courage and the perseverance that the Sherpa have is beyond any other porters around the world. I've climbed in China, I've climbed in Argentina, I've climbed in Nepal. So far, somehow, although everyone is adapted and kind of have the skills to climb mountains, these guys have the motivation and the will to do it. So just for idea, these Sherpas are about 1.6 meters tall, and they weigh about 60 kilos. And this is the load they have to carry, some of them. This load was 80 kilos. This is more than their own body weight. And they have to carry some of these loads for 10 days to base camp, and then, and this is their lifestyle, some of them, their livelihood. I just tried carrying it for a few seconds, and I got a big backache. And Make It Real is a club in NUS. I joined the club when I was studying here as a student, and so that I learned more skills about it, about climbing. So this is from Everest Base Camp during one of our expeditions in 2009, and that's not Everest. From base camp, you actually can't see Everest. That's the western shoulder of Everest. So you have to climb about 2-3 days and reach Camp 2 or beyond before you actually can see Everest itself. That is Everest, the black peak, the pyramid-shaped peak. The reason why it's black among all its other snow-capped neighbors is because it's so high that the polar winds blow throughout the whole year. Only about 3 to 4 days throughout the whole year, the winds die down to allow climbers like myself to actually reach the summit. And this was a picture taken in Xinjiang in China, where I was doing one of my training climbs. In Xinjiang, even though it's in China, the diversity is tremendous. There are people of Tajik, Kazakh, Kyrgyz origin who actually are nomadic herders, and they come to Xinjiang, along the border of Xinjiang, and they live there. So this porter was a nomad, and he actually brings his family in a tent and lives in base camp for the season of climbing this mountain called Mustaq Atta. So this is his 4-year-old daughter. During when I was there, his daughter got scalded by hot water on her face and her arm. And this guy, the hospital is 1 day's drive away. And driving there and seeking medical help and driving back will cost a bomb for him. And that also would mean that he has to stop working, and that would mean a large fraction of his yearly salary getting cut, you see. So he was considering whether to go and seek medical help, or he just wanted to wait it out. So he waited for a while, and the next day the daughter was crying the whole night, and he was extremely worried. He didn't know what to do. So he just came from 10 to 10 looking for someone who could help him. And then he stumbled upon me, and he knew I was a doctor. He asked me whether I could help him in any way. So I was taken aback because she was smeared with Colgate all over her face, on her arm, and the bandage they used was this dirty cloth from the mom's old shirt. So what I did was just clean the Colgate, apply new dressing from a clean gauze, and give her some painkillers. And by the afternoon, she was just running around playing with the rest of the other kids. And that evening, I'll still remember, the father came to me and said a thank you, just a one-liner, thank you, very solemnly and gratefully. And I'll never forget the thank you, because that's one of the most grateful, satisfying thank yous I've ever received as working as a doctor. Even 2.5 years as practicing in Singapore, I've not felt that kind of satisfaction as that's just that one thank you for something so simple I did. This is a very interesting form, body disposal elective form, that I had to fill up before I went to each big mountain. So if you read there, in case I die on the mountain, my body will be put into a crevasse or buried in a respectful manner by my expedition team members unless I specify otherwise and it is feasible to do so. So even if you want your body to get repatriated back to Singapore, it's only if it's feasible, then only they'll be able to do it. So I had to tick here. If I die on the mountain, I prefer to be, number one, left on the mountain, cremated or repatriated. So I went back to my dad and asked him, what do you like to happen to me? He got a shock, and I will still remember that. Of course, I have to downplay that incident and tell it's not so dangerous and all these things to actually calm him down a bit, but it was real. I grew to find out it was actually real. So I had to take 1 year of no pay leave from training as a doctor, and I climbed 6 mountains during this 1 year, from July last year to February this year. There was Mustaq Atta, Cho Oyu, Amadablam, Aconcagua. There's 2 other mountains here I didn't mention, and finally Everest. So Everest was my seventh mountain during this 1 year of no pay leave. And I was thinking, not everyone climbs Everest from every day. So, and I'm a doctor, so why not do something meaningful at the same time? So it's just a side idea. So I was working as a doctor in Tan Tock Seng. I was a house officer, so you get to see people on the ground, interact with patients, and really learn their plight and their heart. I mean, the stress they go through trying to make ends meet and pay off the medical bills. So there's this middle income strata who are not rich enough to pay their own medical bills, and they're not poor enough to qualify for government assistance. These are the guys who really need a lot of help, and most of them, they are getting funded by charities. Each hospital is a charity, and they actually help these people. So I decided, okay, why not raise money for something I feel strongly for? So I started this project called No Mountain Too High, which meant each mountain I climbed, I wanted to raise money for them so that they can overcome their own metaphorical mountains. So no mountain too high for both of us. So in so doing, I managed to raise about 35,000. It's still going on because the publicity I've created, and people are wanting to, ask me for talks. So I tell them, why not you help me out by giving money back to Tan Tock Seng? And so it's a still ongoing process, which I'm glad that publicity has created right now. So my leap of faith. The biggest thing, the most courageous thing that I did was not climbing Everest, but the decision to climb Everest, the decision I made to climb Everest. Because at that time, I was a house officer. I had a 5-year bond with the Ministry of Health. I was still in the beginning stages of my training. I had no money. So climbing mountains takes a lot of money, a lot of training, a lot of dedication. And Ministry of Health was not willing to give 1 year no pay leave to some random guy who wanted to climb. So I had to fight a lot. 6 months of red tape, a lot of emails, ding-donging back. I remember the last part of my my 5th year in medical school, while studying for my exams, I was still writing emails to administrative officials, and they were rejecting it every time. And until I got some doctor to testify for me, saying that this guy won't run off, liquidate the bonds and run off. And eventually they started believing me after I started writing so much to them. After that, I took a leap because I had no money to begin with. I had this 1 year no pay leave right now, so where does the money come from? I knew that if I didn't manage to raise enough money, I wouldn't end up climbing the mountain, which would end up being a waste of my no pay leave. And this was also because I was already in a training program. I was in the orthopedic transitional year program, and I had to quit that to take this 1 year no pay leave. So not only there's a lot of sacrifice basically. My lowest point was not climbing the mountain or feeling cold and thinking of family at that time. My lowest point was approaching people who I believed in, who could give me sponsorship, who I believed would willingly come forward to support me, and they turning me down repeatedly. You're asking me, it's not feasible, you won't be able, not really directly, you won't be able to do it, but why not? You're not doing anything new, so what's so good about you climbing? You'll be like the 11th, 15th Singaporean who's climbing, so why should I support you? Even from the people I believed in, that was the lowest point. And every morning, sometimes I'd wake up thinking, how am I going to raise money for my next climb? That feeling in the pit of your stomach when you wake up in the morning, it's quite bad. My failures. Interestingly, not everything was a successful climb, smooth climb. My first 2 mountains, the very first 2 I climbed, Mount Mustagata and Choyu, I didn't manage to reach the summit. After Mustagata was because of very bad winds, the weather was very bad. Many people got frostbite, 2 people actually died on the mountain. Choyu was because there was an earthquake in Sikkim, which we could feel the tremors on the mountain. And I almost lost my life because the tent almost slipped off the ridge because the tremors were about for 15 seconds, and if it had carried on for another 10 seconds, my tent would have just dropped off the side of the ridge. And that was the reasons. After the first mountain failure, I was thinking, okay, sponsors are not going to come. It's going to be even more difficult. Somehow I managed to get enough for the second mountain, and again a failure. And people started looking at these 2 failures and saying that, wow, this guy really is nobody who wants to climb a mountain, and he has no experience and has failed the first 2 mountains, which are relatively considered easy. And how is he going to climb Everest or any other mountain in the future? So sponsorship started taking a step back, and things started getting more harder. After that, there was this mountain called Mount Ahmadablam, which was a peak along the way to Everest. And this was the picture of Camp 2. And these yellow things here are actually tents. I wondered why do people actually go up to the top of this mountain and pitch tents there to come down the very next day? And I was inspired to climb this. And this mountain, we managed to reach the top, and we were the first Singaporean team to actually reach the summit of this mountain called Ahmadablam. And to this date, I still found this mountain more difficult, more challenging than Everest itself. But no one knows this mountain. And I went to sponsors media again. They were like, what's Ahmadablam? Is this something that you eat? So how is success actually measured? Is it to climb the summit of Everest? If I had turned down 50 meters from the summit of Everest, I wouldn't be here talking to you guys. Media wouldn't have picked me up. I would still be this amateur climber who never succeeded, so-called. But for me, personally, I would have still experienced the same things that I wanted to experience. I would have still gone to the same places, met the new people, embraced the new cultures, and seen the things that I wanted to see from the first photo I saw when I was in NUS. And I would have been successful in my own ways. That's why I say everyone is climbing their own Everest. It doesn't need to be a literal mountain. It doesn't need to be as hard as the difficulty doesn't need to be as difficult as someone else. Everyone is going through some challenges in their lives. It doesn't matter whether people pick it up or acknowledge the fact that you're climbing mountains. As long as you know why you're doing it for, as long as you feel a satisfaction at the end of the day when you accomplish your task, that's what matters. My journey, my Everest wasn't Everest alone, but as I said, this is a long, hard journey leading to Everest. This was a clinic that I helped to set up in the Nepalese village called Fort Se. Because after seeing the Sherpa, how much they toil for making foreigners reach the summit, I was thinking to give back in whatever way I could. So this was a plan. We managed to raise $10,000 separately. And this is a medical equipment that my porters are carrying, 120 kilos worth, to this hospital and another clinic that we set up. So this doctor is the only doctor servicing 8,000 people in the region. Some of these villages are so far away, 4 days walk away. The old people choose to just stay there and get sick and get worse or get better. So if they get very sick, if they get this is the village itself. It's cut out in a headland in the Himalayan mountains. Previously, if the patient got sick, very sick, she had to be carried away by these 2 bamboo poles wrapped with a stretcher, wrapped with a cloth. There were 4 people who manually carry this stretcher to the hospital. And we provided them with this stretcher, which we saw it being used. When we saw it was very satisfying because we gave them what they asked for, and it was good. And simple things is what they need. Just a story. This patient came in saying that she couldn't see after she was prescribed new glasses, which I found very peculiar. Then I took a look at the glasses. It was all filled with smudge and dirt and grime. So all I did, I asked her, how do you wipe your glasses? She just took this dirty piece of cloth and started smearing the dirt around the glasses. And all I did was just take a piece of cloth, clean cloth, damp it, and wipe away the dirt, and gave it back to her, and she said, wow, I can see now. So you don't need to be a great physician or a great, whatever to achieve something meaningful in a person's life. It's all the small things that really matter, which I learned. This was the first time I saw Everest was on the plane 13 years ago, and I was a secondary 3 student. And we were allowed to go into the cockpit then, and this was the teacher, Mr. Krishnan, who showed me Everest from the cockpit, saying that there's Everest. We went, he was volunteered in Nepal under the Singapore International Foundation as an English teacher in one of the villages called Gorkha in Nepal. And when he came to my secondary school, he formed a team of students and teachers to go back to this school to help out in whatever small way. So that was the first time I saw Everest, first time I got exposed to the mountains because we went for a trek there, first time I did some comm service in the school over there. So when my title sponsors brands, they said, we want to help out the school, then I immediately thought of this school. So we managed to raise $10,000 by number of likes on Facebook. And we went back, and then he was very excited because he knew that we were all like getting together again, and he felt very proud. So that's why I said every student's and teacher's dream. Every student's dream is to get inspired by a teacher like him, and every teacher's dream is to see the fruits of labor he sowed long time ago, not knowing how it will turn out, to actually see the fruits in the future, 13 years later, coming around one full circle in some mysterious way. Over here, he looks like an Indian politician, with garlands up to his neck. That's because the kids there are so warm and welcomed us, standing in line with garlands picked from their home gardens, and they were lining, just competing to garland us and give us flowers. And this was what we did with the $10,000 was we set up a 20 desktop computer lab. Previously, they were using 3 CPU monitors and with 3 CPUs with 10 monitors, and a class of 50 students would use them. So one student will click, and 3 monitors will show the same thing, and 10 students will crowd around the 3 monitors. So at least now they have like 1 monitor to 2 students, so that was okay. But there's a lot of help that's still needed in the school. This is their physics lab, that's their library, and this is their lecture theater. So the Everest experience. So the title of this talk is not just a summit. So I'm not going to talk about the summit. So this is my Sherpa, and this is Everest actually during one of the acclimatization climbs. People always ask me what I eat over there. So this is what I eat. M&Ms with mashed potato, mixed with water, made into a puree, and I close my nose and gulp it down. The reason is because your appetite goes down very low. You feel like vomiting everything. Even the sight or thought of food makes you feel like vomiting, and you need to get the calories in. So you just eat whatever you feel like eating. So this is the only place in the world where you can eat whatever you want to eat and sleep most of the time and still lose weight. So this was a human traffic jam on the 19th of May, which killed 11 people on the mountain. This year saw the highest number of deaths on Everest compared to the 96 tragedy, which saw 16 deaths. That's because this year the weather was bad, and they only opened up the window very late. So 250 people tried to summit on the same day. Many of them were not prepared, not having enough oxygen or Sherpa support. Base camp asked them to turn down before the summit, and they didn't. They said, no, I'm not. I'm going to reach the summit. 4 of them died on the same day, and all of them actually reached the summit, and as they were coming down, they passed away. Because there's one-way traffic there. There's no way to overtake anyone. So when I was going up, I saw these dead bodies lying by my side, As a doctor, I thought that, seeing dead bodies over the 1.5 years of practice, I wouldn't feel anything. But when I saw this guy lying down there in the snow in his climbing gear, died just a few days ago, and I'm trying to do the same thing that he was trying to do, it gets to you. You feel very unnerved, and you hope that the same thing won't happen to you. But you have to focus because your 4 years of planning is on that day, and you can't just let some random negative thought get to you. This is a picture of a dead body. One of the dead bodies I saw over there. So he's still dressed in his down suit, torn and tattered. Maybe this body is a few years old. It's difficult, it's not possible to bring down any bodies, even though how much money you pay them, because it's too dangerous and the terrain is too tough. You can see his hands over here preserved, the green hands in the cold and dry air. So none of your body is decomposed. So you'll just lie there forever. So I didn't manage to take a video on the summit because when I thought that I want to switch off my camera when I was coming down, I realized I didn't switch it on in the first place. So gone were my opportunities of a video on the summit. So I only managed to, photos on the summit sufficed. So this is a panorama from the summit. That's the Tibetan plateau. And we're spanning across Tibet. You can see the curvature of the earth over there. You know, it's a beautiful view. That's the 5th highest mountain in the world, Makalu. And you're going into Nepal at this time. You can see the rock bands forming a curve. And that's the summit. And it's not possible to step on the summit because it's full of prayer flags. The Tibetans believe that the higher you tie the prayer flags to heaven, the closer your prayers are being read out to God. So the summit is about the size of 2 table tennis courts. So you're all around the summit. So technically, I didn't reach the summit. So that's why it's not about the summit. So videos, I'll just skip this. And so after 4 years of planning, 1 year of hard work, on the 26th of May at 6:55 a.m., managed to reach the summit of Everest. And of course, I didn't forget the NUS as well. So I brought up our flag as well to the summit. So just the take-home message, it's not just about the summit. So it's about, what I felt is it's about dreaming big and believing in the dream, no matter how many people believed against it. It's about taking the first steps towards the dream. It's always the first step which is the hardest. And not taking a step back, even though the resistance may tire you tremendously. No matter how much the flow is against you, no matter how much people are doing the norm and taking the path which is traveled, for you to make a new path and go with the path in a structured society like ours, that was something that I learned. Never forgetting where I came from and giving back in whatever small way to people who made you who you are today. That was something I learned. The Sherpas, without them, I have no way I would have reached the summit, and whatever small way I could, I thought of giving back to them. Living in the moment and not being affected by the past or the future. Everest seemed still very far away. The last 2 climbs were like a failure, so what am I going to do now? But in the end, if you just live in the moment, enjoy whatever you have at the moment, the journey is the most important. And finally, of course, I always say, the final one is the one to come. And always being the inspiration that you want to see in others. And it's always about the journey and not merely about the destination. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Okay, just a few quick questions, a chat. Some people I talked to said that one of the reasons why people climb Everest is to fan their own ego. Mm-hmm. Obviously, these guys haven't climbed mountains. But there is a serious element to this question. The amount of attention you got after you came back, right? You are a different person. As you said very correctly, if you had gone up to 5 meters and not make it to the summit, you'd have been a nobody.
Yep.
Right? So what's the measurement of achievement and success? But the truth is, you summited. You are a different person today. You're a hero. And it gets to your head. Right? You're invited to forums like this. It can fan your ego. You can become a completely different man. Right? How has this whole experience of attention after this achievement affected you?
So I think I was not expecting any attention, first of all. And I would have been happy if I didn't receive any attention.
Well, that's easy to say.
But now I've gotten it, then it's a different story, right?
Yeah. But didn't you enjoy it?
The attention?
The attention.
Maybe initially, yes, but maybe the first day when I was received at the airport and with so much of media, I never actually got it. But I was still having this thing, like I was not able to spend enough time with the people I wanted to say hi to and thank and hug and, cry to, like my parents, my family, the people who were there right from the start. Media, I contacted them right from the start, and they were never around. It's only when I reached the summit of Everest and I came back, then suddenly everyone appeared from nowhere. And these people were taking more time, more of my time than people I really owed my thanks to, you know. And I thought that was not the way to go. But somehow I had to balance it. Eventually I learned to say no to a lot of requests. Random people who had rejected me previously were asking me for interviews now. I've learned how to say no. Yeah.
That's good. What was your principal motivation in doing this? 4 years of planning. Was it a personal challenge to be the next guy to climb Everest? Or was it a lot more to do with wanting to make a difference? I mean, there's $35,000 you raised for charity, right? Great cause, helping the school in Gorkha. I mean, all these things are good. But which was the stronger factor that sustained you for 4 years?
So
be honest. Huh? Don't give the politically correct
So
statement.
coming back to your question about ego, definitely I would say climbing mountains, initially for any climber, would be about ego, about reaching the top of the mountain and feeling the most defeated when you don't reach the top of the mountain, and wanting to reach the top even harder when you fail.
Yeah.
That's purely ego. And that what I would say fueled me initially when I first reached the mount. Actually, in fact, the picture I saw of the picture that inspired me made me want to climb. And the fact that I underestimated my first mountain, which was Mount Kilimanjaro, made me want to climb harder, more. And that was when I made the plan of Everest. So along the way, there were a lot of failures. There were a lot of mountains that I didn't manage to reach. Not only these two I mentioned along the way. The first mountain that I didn't manage to reach the summit was the hardest. The truth was the hardest to swallow. When my rest of my teammates were all wanting to come back, wanting to enjoy their rest time at Kathmandu, I wanted to go again. I didn't want to waste my time. I didn't want to go back and tell people that, look, I didn't manage to climb the mountain after spending so much of money and time. So just me wanting to stupidly climb the mountain, even though the weather had come in, it was dangerous doing so, I wanted to push myself. Pushing myself is a side, ego is one side. So along the way, when you meet repeated failures, that's when you realize the essence of mountaineering, which is more like a philosophy more than a destination and a goal, as I keep bringing across. If I had made this presentation maybe about 2 years ago, when I hadn't started my 1 year off, the points that I would have brought across would be totally different. You know, as I climbed, I realized how small I was. My ego was suppressed more and more each time, even if I made it to the summit or didn't manage to make it to the summit. People always say that I conquered a mountain. How do you feel about conquering Everest? But I always say that I conquered nothing, basically. The mountain merely allowed me good weather and allowed me good grace to allow me to reach the summit and come down safely by granting me my life. And anyone who claims that, oh, I conquered the mountain, I reached this, I reached that, the word I many times appears, I don't think they are true mountaineers. If you speak to people who are experienced, they will never say something like that.
So, to understand you correctly, the reason why I'm asking these questions is so that we can understand what drives an individual such as you, right? What you're saying is, instead of scaling the summit, becoming an ego boost, means you come back and you become a hero, actually, it is a humbling factor.
Along the way, I found that out, yes.
For you. Is it the case for most mountaineers?
I would say a lot of
Because I've met at least one who brags about it, which has affected my perspective of people who climb Everest. That's the reason why I'm asking you this question, right? He's a Singaporean, so you can... Okay, all right. So, you know, the adjectives that are used to describe the scaling of the mountain, you know, is as if he has conquered this thing, right? But the way you've described it sounds different. So what I'm trying to understand, I'm asking you again, is it that you're being politically correct? Because we need to understand what makes people do something as crazy as this. Look, let's face it, filling up that form would have been a cathartic thing because reality hits home that this is real. seeing those dead bodies is real, right?
Yeah.
You know, and as a doctor, you know that this is real, right? You know what happens biologically, right? Yet, and even before you scaled the mountain, you knew what was in store. But what makes an individual still do this? And spend 4 years of your life planning for something as crazy as this.
Yep, I think I would have spent more time planning for this than studying for my exams, you know.
So basically you're telling us you're damn smart.
No.
You got your medical degree without studying.
No,
you
no,
see this guy, huh? You know, he's got this indirect way of boosting his own ego. Okay. Okay, so
I think I was too into it to actually turn back, I would say. If I knew that an 8,000 meter peak, I enjoy climbing the smaller peaks. Honestly speaking, now in hindsight, if you give me a choice, I wouldn't climb 8,000 peak anymore. Because the amount of psychological trauma and challenge that one faces, not just a physical challenge, is tremendous. After climbing my first 8,000 meter peak, which is Cho Oyu, which is the 6th highest mountain in the world, I told myself that, damn, why did I put Everest as a goal? I'd rather not. I'd rather be contented with the smaller peaks out there.
like Bukit Timah Hill.
Maybe. You climb it like...
So those of us who climb Bukit Timah Hill don't have to feel that bad after all. Huh?
Everything is a challenge.
No, but
So-
there is something to Everest, right?
Something to it,
I
definitely.
mean, as you said, it's not the most difficult mountain to climb, but there is something to Everest. What is it? Apart from being the tallest
I think it's a
mountain in the world.
sacrifice that you have already made. And it takes, and just to bring up an example, there was a huge avalanche on the summit, along the way to the summit. This doctor, he's a plastic surgeon in the US, he actually saw this huge avalanche and he swept the entire Cam 1 away, and he brought the Sherpa to his death because he got swept into a crevasse, and he saw this through his own eyes. He has spent a lot of money, he has spent a lot of time and sacrifice, took a leave of work. He came back down to base camp and he said that, I know how is it growing up without a father, and I don't want my 2 young kids to grow up without a father. And I think it takes more courage to do something like that than to actually go to the summit and come back. Like those guys who died, you see?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Quick question before I throw it open to the floor. What are the 3 strongest takeaways? Please don't give me those kind of lines, you know, that you put there. You know, from the heart, straight here. Okay, simple language.
Okay.
Okay, 3 strongest takeaways. They could be negative.
Yeah.
Let me put one to you, okay? Which I think is a takeaway. You know, why people don't give you an umbrella when you need it. You know, the sponsors, right? They don't give you the umbrella when you need it. But when it stops raining, a whole lot of people come and offer you the umbrellas, like banks, right? How painful and how frustrating and disappointing was that? I recall how difficult it was for you to raise that money. It isn't that huge a money, is it? How much is it?
That's
Total amount?
total amount was, for myself, was 120,000.
120,000. How much did the Lee Kuan Yew School raise in 1 year? 80 million. So, you know, in scale, it's 120,000. It's not that huge an amount, is it? But you had tremendous difficulties.
I'm glad you saw it that way.
Yeah. Why?
That is it. That was what I was asking myself. You know, I think we don't give enough credit to those people needing that kind of support at a young age. Those people who don't have that kind of credibility, when they're trying to come up, you know, people want paper qualifications. They want something to be achieved by that person before they actually start giving attention, and that's very prevalent in our society. I feel that they don't give the chance. The opportunity is what's lacking. You know, there's a lot of budding talent, a lot of potential out here, but they're just not being given the opportunity.
So you don't give people the chance until they have succeeded, and then everybody
Pounces on you. That's why I said, don't ever forget where you came from. I'll never forget the people who were there right from the start. My family, my friends, and the 1-2 people who believed in me and said, go ahead, and gave me the doors.
Yeah, I see some Gryphons here.
Yes, Rabin is there.
Please, can you talk about the Gryphons? The RI Scouts.
Yeah. So, when I said my lowest point, I didn't want to elaborate on that, but my lowest point was actually, I was a scout, 01 scout in Raffles Institution. And we have this very, very strong alumni because the way we are trained for the 6 years we were in RI is very, very strong, and the bond that we create is very strong. And this alumni goes on for over 80 years. And the moment you need help, you just snap your fingers and people will come to you. So the lowest point was when they had a gathering, and I remember coming out with a detailed proposal, a guy who had no business mind. I had not done any sort of entrepreneurship. I had no idea, you know. I came out with this random proposal template that I got off the internet, changed a few pictures and the words, and I came to the group who comprised of distinguished people, and I told them, look, I want to climb Everest, can you help me out? All I received the whole night was criticisms, because I was confident, that if the bunch of people who are so strongly supportive of you won't help you, then no one else would. And I received criticisms and saying that you have changes, it won't work, what's so special, what are you going to do? And that night I remember I couldn't sleep. I was writing this long email to one of my friends, Anand is our friend. And the whole night I couldn't sleep, and I was just thinking, if these guys don't help me out, there's no way I can actually get money from anyone else. It's like milking water out of a stone, getting money for a nobody in Singapore. It's like that. Yeah. But these guys are the ones who were the first people I approached, and who were the ones who stayed throughout me through the whole journey, and they ended up, even though they didn't contribute directly, some of them, they opened up a lot of doors, which made me gain access to funds, people, sponsors, media, and they were the first ones to receive me at the airport as well. And they're still here.
Yeah. And would you say that apart from money, the sense that you've got people who matter believing in you was important?
I think that's more important than anything else. Yeah. I didn't need the money. I just needed people to believe in me. That's all I needed. That belief can spur on that passion and the dream, and will keep it alive. And more than money, I think people need the tap on the back from people that are important to them and say that, look, your idea is not bad, carry on, just have a few tweaks here and there. That's all that I needed.
What about the other two things, that strong takeaways? What else?
I think it's about, people say you must have been a great, successful person all my whole life and things like that. I would say success doesn't come just like that, It's the failures that people don't see, they don't hear about, that makes people successful. So I would have to base my successes based on the lessons I learned from my failures. And it's very cliche again, but I really felt it as I was going through the hurdles and the brick walls that I kept hitting against again and again when I was getting a sponsorship. But failure is only true when you fall and you don't get up after you fall. As long as you get up and go again at the brick wall, eventually you'll break, or eventually you realize that there's another way around it. That's why I've learned. The moment you just stop and say it's too high, I'm not going to go, that's when you truly fail. That's really what I realized, even though it's very cliche. Yeah.
Is there a third takeaway? Don't force yourself. If it's two, we are fine to stop at 2. You're quite used to that.
2, the third one, is it?
You don't have to force yourself. 2 is all right.
I think it's not really a takeaway, but I feel that I'd rather not have all this publicity and credit right now after the climb, because it didn't come to me when I needed it. Right now, I would like to concentrate on something else. People shouldn't always ride on a wave of success, because they miss out on all the other waves that they can actually get high on in life, you see. So my next challenge should be starting afresh in work. Now it's a big challenge because everyone sees me as a doctor who climbed Everest, and if no one knows how to read an X-ray in the ward or something, it's like, ask this guy, he climbed Everest, he should know. Somehow I should know, So meeting up to people's expectation is another big challenge for me. And when patients come to me and say, oh, I recognize you, you are the guy who climbed Everest, I try to push that under the carpet and start afresh, letting them know I'm just a normal doctor, I'm starting afresh, I'm a new trainee, please regard me as a normal trainee. That's a big challenge that I would have faced, to go back and start riding up another wave. And hopefully I make it as a consultant, a good doctor one day, and that's my next challenge, I think.
Apart from getting married and having children.
Yep, that's always there.
Okay. All right, on that happy note and politically correct note, let's throw it open to the floor.
My name is Tan Tock Seng, a graduate of University of Malaya in 1955. Doctor, I just want to find out from you, you mentioned that you think of your origin. Then there's a Chinese saying that 饮水思源, when you drink water, you must remember its origin. So that was your compass, so to speak, that guide you in your endeavor, so to speak, right? Right?
Yeah.
But I was thinking, instead of going through all the trouble and climbing all the way up, is there another way that you have a plane to fly you there and then drop you down there? Isn't it achieving the same purpose without any bother at all?
But you're a Singaporean, right?
Yes, yes.
But you were born in Malaysia, were you?
Malaysia, but now become
See how you lost
Singaporean.
your values so
Yeah.
fast? It's called expediency.
Yeah.
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 Sorry.
Okay. At the moment, there are a lot of flights that go around Everest, that you can see Everest from a plane. But there's no helicopter that can land on Everest as of yet. Yeah, it can't drop you off on the summit of Everest. And even if you don't acclimatize, you will die within 10 minutes because the body's oxygen, the oxygen level is so low there, your body is not acclimatized to it. But more to the non-literal part of the question, I think it's not about the summit. Yeah, basically that, as I learned along the way, I could have easily gone there. Like climbing is like it's an apprenticeship. It's not it's like medicine, Nowadays, there are easy routes to make you a consultant as soon as possible. Now there's a residency program, and you get on. People are dying to get onto it right after they graduate, to start training from year 0 and then get to a consultant year 5. But at the end of the day, they'll still consult people who are junior to them because they have more experience. That's the same thing with climbing. You can climb, Everest can be our first mountain, and many people have done that also. They have summited Everest being their first mountain. But would they have experienced the same things along the way? And how these people reach the summit is also another question. I know of a friend who summited Everest, the first climb, first mountain in her life, summited. But she paid 3 Sherpas, support her, put a rope in front of her, literally carry her to the top. Not knowing how to come down, the Sherpa had to change the ropes for her, change the harness for her. Her life was literally in the hands of the Sherpas, and without them, she wouldn't be able to climb. So I realized that even if I didn't manage to reach the top, which was eventually, it did not become the objective, I learned a lot of things along the way, I've realized. So getting to a plane to the summit is not what I would have wanted eventually. Initially, maybe yes, but eventually I realized that's not the point.
Okay, now on the physical side, in Singapore, we have sea level and we have very oxygen-rich air, so to speak. But how do you train for the Mount Everest where the oxygen content is so little? And what preparation do you do before you embark on the climb?
Yep, it's a very good question that I always get asked. It's basically using whatever resources you have wherever you have it. So in Singapore, we have what other people don't have, which are HDB flats. 40-story HDB flats, that's all around the place, you see. So I go down to, what I used to do is go down to Clementi, Queenstown, and Toa Payoh, put a 25-kilo backpack, put ankle weights, and go up and down this HDB flats many times. That's one way. Then I go to our dear old Bukit Timah Hill, do the same thing, and go up and down many times for a day's training. And of course, the regular gym work and all this. And the 1 year no-pay leave was to train on the ground, where I actually got to feel the altitude and train on the mountains itself.
And also climbing the other mountains.
Climbing the other mountains, of course.
Yeah.
That was my plan.
For 1 year,
Okay, now you mentioned your failures.
How many more questions do you have?
One more, last one.
Only one, huh?
You
Okay.
mentioned your 2 failures and all that. But what do you learn out of these 2 failures? Is it the toughness of your mind that you overcome all these obstacles? Whatever happened, I would still want to climb up to the mountain.
I realized
This is
that's a very
toughness,
dangerous mindset to have after a while. There's a very thin red line between what makes you safe and return home safely alive and what makes you push yourself over the edge and kills you and not be able to return back to the mountain another day to climb it. So my first mountain, Mount Kilimanjaro, I pushed myself a lot. The guide told me I had pulmonary edema. That means water in your lungs, because I was coughing out a lot and I found it extremely difficult even climbing. But I thought I sacrificed my only 3 weeks of break the entire year. I had given tuition outside, raised money outside for my own thing, and I spent all my money on this trip, traveled halfway across the world to return around 2 hours from the summit. I was not wanting to do that. I would say that was ego and that mentality of pushing myself beyond the limit. But on hindsight, then the guy told me, your life is more important than the rock. The rock will always be there. You can always come back and take a photo of the rock another day. So that mentality needs to be there between how much you want to push yourself and killing yourself in the process, and when you draw the line. For a person like me, it was a hard pill to swallow because I'm a guy who loves pushing myself, challenging myself, and always had to pull myself back. And that's something I've got used to now, and I know what's my limits and what terrain is like, what weather is like. Some people who don't experience the whole apprenticeship will just push, and that's the end of it.
So the moral of the story is know your limit. Don't go beyond it.
Sometimes not even your limit, it's nature.
I see. Okay, that's all I have to ask.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Monmohan Shrestha.
Could you bring the microphone down a bit? Yeah, thank you.
My name is Monmohan Shrestha. I'm from Nepal.
Ah,
Hi,
welcome to
nice
Singapore.
to meet you.
Thank you. Hundreds of people make their way to Mount Everest each year, but very few people will be able to maintain their honor in the heart of the people. What will you make you be able to remain in the heart and mind of the people, being a doctor or a conqueror to the Mount Everest?
Not a conqueror, as I said. Yeah, like just a mere summiter. I don't intend to be in the heart of the people, but I want to do what I want to do, and I want to give back in whatever small way I can. And if it so happens that they remember me for that, good. So I did what I wanted to do, was to practice medicine overseas and help the Sherpa people who were responsible for bringing me up to the summit. And that's what I did. And I don't know whether they forgot me or they're behind my back, they're telling this guy is crap. He's a quack doctor. He gives me Panadol for everything. I don't know whether they're telling that right now.
Or wipes glasses.
So it's not my point of capturing their hearts, but it's my point of doing my little for them, basically.
In a very practical way.
Yes, yes. Not giving them what they don't need, but asking them what they need and supplying them with, like, for example, a stretcher, for example.
How would you like to inspire the youth like us?
Wow, that's a very general question.
How much of time do you have?
To climb the Mount Everest or to help the people like you did in Gorkha and Photse?
You're obviously very inspired by that, yes?
Yeah, being a person from the country of Mount Everest.
What inspired you looking at that photograph and with Dr. Kumaran sharing that? What effect did it have on you?
I have already told that hundreds of people make their way to Mount Everest each year, but very few of them make their way to the heart of the people. That means they remain in the heart of the Nepalese people. He has given something to the people, being a human. So that inspires me, seeing the picture. So he's not a Nepali. He's from abroad. So being even from abroad, he has the feeling of humanity, the people in Nepal. So that inspires me a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
put that so beautifully.
Okay,
Thank
you. I need the answer.
Can we give him a hand?
Thank you, everyone.
So to
So
answer
you
your
wanna answer?
yes,
Yeah.
to answer your question very briefly, it's moments like this that inspire people around you to do good and to inspire others. Inspiration is like a matchstick in a box of unlit matchsticks. You just need one to spark off and everything else will catch fire. It's not the great people that you read about that inspire you, but it's the person sitting next to you on your table doing the same things as you, going through the same hardship. When he does something different, doing the things he likes to do, he loves to do, and he just shares this passion, everyone around him gets inspired. Basically that's how I started off with that photo, and just followed my inspiration and followed my passion. And I'm happy if my passion inspires others. So I've created more than what I wanted to start off with.
If you're not getting enough questions, it's because people are just absorbing it, you know? Right, next question. Yes, Val, introduce yourself.
My name is Valerie. I'm the online moderator tonight.
Louder.
I'm the online moderator tonight for this session. So while all of you were watching the show, there was an online chat going on. People have left questions online for Dr. Kumaran. So I'm just going to read a question that was left on the website earlier by, these usernames are funny, BubbleGirl86.
BubbleGirl86.
Yeah.
Okay.
So really inspired by the work you have done, What did your peers think of you when embarking on the Everest project and setting up the clinic in Nepal? And any plans to go back? Have there been any more Singaporean doctors who've been up there to run the clinic or similar projects?
Okay, good. So I see 3 questions.
Yes,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, okay. So the first one is, surprisingly, is the first people I turned to for support to climb together. I actually wanted to form a team of medical students because I was in medical school at that time and I got inspired by the mountains. I wanted to form a team of medical students to go and embark on this project and eventually climb Everest, becoming maybe the first group of medical students in the world to climb Everest, for example. But these are the same people who said no to me. They criticized me and they rejected my idea, saying that, what are you trying to do? You graduate, concentrate on your MBBS, graduate, get into a residency, become a consultant, earn some money. That's the first thing they said. So to even get the group of people was so difficult, even from people next to me doing the same things as me. So that was the first thing. Secondly, the second question is whether I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
Any plans to go back?
Yes.
Yeah.
So initially I set up this clinic because I wanted to do some overseas community work, and I had very little exposure about sustainability as I came to learn. I think on-the-job training is the best learning tool because no matter what you read from the books, nothing beats on-the-job training. And along the way, I met people who told me about this sustainability factor. So at that time, I just wanted to set it up, provide education for the healthcare worker there to provide more advanced medical care for the villagers, and provide basic health education for the villagers so that they know how to take care of themselves so that it doesn't escalate to advanced diseases. So that was a thing that we ended up doing. I thought that was sustainable enough. But 3 months of that, and I don't know how fast it will crumble. So through my publicity, one thing good is that a lot of doctors, a lot of sponsors actually come forward now saying that, look, if you're going up there again, I want my company to go with you. We are willing to give the money. This doctor says, I want to climb Everest to base camp. I want to help in the village. So it's good. I'm forming this team of doctors and people who are willing to help. It doesn't need to be doctors. A lot of non-medical people are also coming forward. As I said, it's not the big things, but it's the small things that they really need help for. Like you can set up a school or a good water facility, or some engineers to set up, there's only 1 or 2 hand pumps in the whole village. So if they can get water supply to each house, it will be a big bonus for them, for example. So I'm in the process of creating a team to actually go down there every year. And if possible, if you can manage to get enough support, even like a week, fortnightly roster, where every doctor can be in the village for like 2 weeks, and then another doctor will leave them. So all they need is just 2 weeks of annual leave and they can sustain this. And that's the project in the future. Yeah.
So if I could just suggest something to you. You had said earlier on that you are quite frustrated that you got all the attention after you scale Everest, right?
Yep.
And that for you, that attention is not important. What if I put it to you that attention is all important? Because it enables you to be sufficiently iconic to gain a following to make a bigger difference.
That's absolutely
Correct?
true, yes.
I mean, you look at Oprah, the difference that she's able to make globally is because of the media attention she's managed to get. You know that she's from extremely humble beginnings. If she remained where she was, she wouldn't be able to influence the way people think around the world. So a certain amount of publicity post facto is not a bad thing.
It's never a bad thing.
So really, tell us how you're going to ride on this. You see, there's a difference between profiting from something and profiteering from something. You're obviously profiting from it, right? Profiting not for yourself. You're making profit for better good. So how else do you think you can, ride on this? Because you're no more Dr. Kumaran. You're Dr. Kumaran who climbed Everest. Right?
So I should do something different.
Yeah.
I think the real difficulty starts now. And because of publicity, there's more responsibility now because all eyes are on me and they expect me to do something. The good thing is that now I can say whatever I want to say and people will listen.
Yeah.
Whatever I say, people will listen. So that's a good thing.
The bad thing is also whatever you say, people listen.
People listen as well.
Yeah.
If I say something wrong to a patient, I'm not sure, he'll listen. That's the Everest doctor who told me this.
And she'll put it online.
Online.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think the real challenge starts now. It's never what you have done, but it's always what you're going to do from now. It's always the real challenge. So, and also a challenge of how I'm going to manage my personal life, my job as a doctor, and doing what I really want to do with now the added responsibility, you know.
But it's an advantage to
yes,
do good.
Yes, it's definitely. Like for example, I've been giving talks in schools, and each time I give a talk in a school, other school principals or other school students are there, and they request me for another talk in another school. And if I keep giving these talks in every school, even now itself, I don't have time for myself. You know, I don't even have time to have 5 hours of sleep per night because of my job thing. I mean, I come back home quite late, and managing there, I'm learning on the job as well. I'm basically going to school again. Medicine is all about lifelong learning, you see. And if I concentrate on each person, that's the end of me. I'll be a burnt-out matchstick.
As you said, you've also learned to say no.
I've learned to say no. That's very important to say no, I've realized. Yeah. So
Okay,
it's a balance.
maybe this is a good time. There's this fantastic video that Kumaran shot that, maybe it's a good time for you to show it and give a running commentary as it's being screened. To give you a sense, for me, I got a sense of what it takes as you're approaching the summit. You know, for those of us who are trying to visualize it, feel it, this is a good video to capture it.
Okay. So,
can we play the video, please? The video.
So just to give you a background while the video is being loaded, I had this GoPro camera which is mounted on my helmet, and I filmed it along the way. So you can play it with sound. So that's on the way to the summit. The summit is beyond that ridge, and that's people's puke stains on the right there. And you're going through this narrow ridge, and people say that if you fall, try to fall on the Tibetan side, which is on your right, because it's...
Actually, maybe better for you to stand there?
Yeah.
You
on
know,
the right,
back,
because
back
as
so
compared to the Nepalese side, because this side is actually higher and steeper, so you get to live a little bit longer. And the sun rises on Tibet, it casts a shadow on Everest, and Everest casts a shadow on Nepal. And this is the shadow of Nepal on Everest. It's beautiful. It's a pyramid-shaped shadow. Huh? And this part of the climb is called the Hillary Step, which is 5 meters of vertical rock, which is considered the crux of the climb just before the summit, which is about 50 meters below the summit. This is my Sherpa just powering it up, powering his way up, making it look as though it's sea level. But then, and then he's telling me, you know, and if you have sound, that's me hitting my head on the rock.
Can we bring up the sound to hear Kumaran breathe?
So that's my Sherpa telling me not to hold here, and do this and that, and that's me not being able to do anything basically at the altitude. And I'm slowly powering my way to the top and trying my best to get across this. And once I'm across this...
Sorry, what happened to the sound? Can we, the sound effects? Yeah, fixing it, okay.
Maybe just this part,
Yeah.
Just rewind this part once the sound comes up.
Yeah.
This is me just crossing the Hillary Step and breathing. This was when I was with oxygen, and I'm just breathing there. And my Sherpa is looking at me, wondering what's happening to me. And this is the guy behind me who's impatient, pushing me along.
Can we rewind a little bit to hear the breathing, please? No, you got to hear this,
He's a sadist.
Yeah. This is my moment, okay?
So that's me breathing. And that's me breathing still, and that's my Sherpa wondering what's happening to me. He's looking at me, he's like, why, what's wrong with this guy?
And you're just stationary, right?
I'm just stationary, I'm not moving with oxygen, no? And I just crossed the Hillary Step, the hardest part of the climb. And this impatient guy is pushing me along, pushing my equipment along. He doesn't know what's in store for him. Wait until he crosses that part. And there I'm trying to make myself seem more busy by meddling with the equipment and trying to unclip from that rope over there and pretending to clip in as fast as I can to this, fumbling in the way and pretending to look around.
And I guess your brain is not functioning fully, right, at this point. I mean, you must be Exhaustion.
There's this guy waiting in front of me, there's this guy waiting behind me, and I'm there.
What I mean is, is your mind also working slower?
It's slow. You can't think of anything, basically.
It does, huh?
It doesn't think. You can't think, basically. Just rewind a bit. Just show them the. Yep, that's fine. Yeah. So this is just past the summit. The summit is just past this point, and some impatient people will go through this part, not knowing that this is actually a cornice. Cornice means there's no support at the bottom. The snow just goes up like that. So some people who actually try to overtake will pump. They will just fall down. The impatient ones.
How do you know? Huh?
People tell you,
Okay.
Or you experience it for yourself once. So this is coming down from the mountain. Unfortunately, as I said, I don't have clips up. This fold of rocks used to be below the sea level millions of years ago, and it was folded up from the Indo-Australian plate. And that's Nepal side, and that's the summit of Everest, as you see over there. So this is the feel of the mountain as I'm going up, basically. And this is rewinding.
Yeah, it's rewinding.
With sound now.
Do you have another clip?
The most satisfying moment, actually, when people ask me whether it was to reach the summit, how did I feel at the summit? Actually, I was too tired to feel anything at the summit, like what Mr. Wiswa said. The most rewarding moment, I would say, was to see this, was to go through this part and to see the sun rising from the side on my right, and on the left, to see the shadow of Everest. And to see the whole curvature of the earth. You are standing at the highest point, everything's below you. You can see the whole of God's creation, and that's the moment you feel that this 4 years has been worthwhile. Not the summit, but this moment where the sun was rising. That I would say was the most worthwhile moment. Yeah.
Well, I guess that's, I can't think of a better way to end the forum with that comment. Sometimes the simplest things that nature presents us can be the most humbling and the most profound at the same time. And I think that's what he experienced. That's what you experienced. And I think it's fabulous that you were able to share so much in such a short while with so much of accuracy and nuancing, But for me, the strongest takeaway is that it's a humbling effect. It's humbling. The more you scale, the more humbled you are. And I just hope that you will ride on the popularity for greater good, and I'm sure that you will, knowing the person that you are.
Okay. Thank you.
NUS fraternity, NUS family, NUS alumni, faculty, we're all exceptionally proud of you for the simple fact that you are still Kumaran. Right?
Thank you very much.
Big hand for Kumaran, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have something for you. We have something for you. This is a photo of you with a handsome man, me. Yeah. We put this together as a token of appreciation.
Very nice.
For you. Yeah?
Thank you.
And then we've got something else for you to give to us. This is, we need you to write something nice about us here. In particular about me. Okay?
Anything?
Anything, but nice.
Okay. Okay, so
you can sit.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay. So I should.
Well, you can write it and then show it later.
Okay, sure. Anything.
Anything. I'm getting worried. The fact that he asked me 3 times. No.
Anything.
By the way, for those of you who want to interact with Dr. Kumaran outside, while we have light eats and drinks, feel free to do that. You're going to take pictures with him. It'll cost you $10. Okay? And the proceeds will go to me. But seriously, I mean, he'll be available for the next half an hour or so for you to just interact with him. And I think it'll be a great opportunity for you to ask those questions, especially our friend from Nepal. Some of the questions you wanted to ask him, right? And I think you added tremendous value to this conversation. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
You want to read it out to them?
Sure, okay. So I'm very fiercely proud of being a scout. So there's this scout hymn that goes to be the best that you can be. So it's not always about being the best, but always about being the best that you can be, unleashing your full potential. That's my take-home message, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
How many scouts are there here? Ex-scouts? I can see a few of my friends there. By the way, we were scouts from the same scout group. You know, talk about vicarious. Okay. So with that, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us, and see you outside.
Thank you very much.